Now let's cross live to a signatory of that letter, a retired Brigadier General Relik Shafir. Sir, welcome to the program. Can you tell us a little bit more about this letter and what's the message you're trying to send? What's the main goal?
About 70% of the Israeli public, by many censuses, has voiced their opinion that this war should be over so that we can get our hostages back. The live ones and the dead ones, it's 59 altogether. And even if the war has to stop and our forces should retreat from Gaza, because holding the captives continuously, we're talking about over 550 days, is intolerable. And the government should do more to get them out, because basically the war is over on all fronts, starting from Iran, Syria, Lebanon, even the Houthis, Iraq, and so on. And so we should concentrate in getting the hostages out. And once that is done, there will be a deal between the Egyptians, Americans, Hamas, and Israel into subduing Hamas. But even if we return to war after that, the hostages should come in first. Reason being that in Israeli society, in Jewish society, lives matter more than anything else. What's more, these are people who were abducted from their homes, pulled out from their homes, during the October 7th massacre, and held captive in very poor and dire conditions. So this is the basic, the essence of the story. Another point that needs to be put out is that the government has a very low support from the public, mainly because there are two right-wing parties who are controlling the government and threatening to topple it if it goes ahead with securing the release of all the hostages before the whole of Gaza is conquered and subdued. So it's political, it's humane. It has really not much to do with the military, because the military is doing what the leaders are telling it to. And there are many, many soldiers, not just pilots, who think the same, along with the general public.
Clearly, the Israeli government isn't happy with this letter. Why did you sign it personally?
I have a lot of obligations towards the military and the Air Force. I was a brigadier general in the Air Force, commander of the largest air base in Israel, and pilot for many years, flying F-16s and F-15s. But I have civilian duties. My civilian duty is to care for the citizens and for the country's well-being, and the right of citizens to oppose the government's policies come first and foremost. And this is why I signed it personally.
There has never been such doubt expressed by Israeli military personnel regarding the current Gaza war. How much of a risk is it to convey such concerns, do you think? And why did this letter come out now?
First of all, there's no risk. This is a democratic country. We've been out in the streets for quite a few years now, and certainly during the war, rallying against this particular government. Every week, Saturday evening, and sometimes in the middle of the week, hundreds of thousands of people go out to protest against the government. So it's not something that is of great change. But at this time, because the Israeli government is in a stalemate internally because of the extreme right threat to topple the government, and Netanyahu is in some way is a captive, but he's a willing captive to the idea that he's not willing to make any concessions to get the hostages back, even though we've really subdued Hamas down to the ground.
Netanyahu's office issued a statement saying that this criticism expressed in the letter was unforgivable. So what reaction should we expect from them now?
From the government?
Yeah, and what do you think about the statement in general?
It's a poor statement, like many of the made by Prime Minister Netanyahu. He's threatening the chief of internal police, who's very popular in the country, and says he betrayed him. He's threatened the judicial system. By the way, he's in trial for bribery and misdemeanor and cheating, and he's trying to attack anybody who does not support him 100%. This is not the way a country should be run in democracy or otherwise. And so he will attack anybody who does not subside with him. And this has been shown in the last few weeks in a growing pattern, unfortunately. And that's the sad event. That does not have any effect on the military or on our support, on my support of the military and the Air Force at large.
But the Israeli Air Force did say that it will dismiss reservists who signed this letter. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, he's under pressure from the Prime Minister. I think he's made a mistake because soldiers, while they're on duty, obviously cannot take part in any political events. But as long as they are out there and not called for duty, they can voice their opinions at any time. And indeed, many of them, we're talking thousands, are taking out to the streets every week in protests against the government and for the release of the hostages. So this is just, I'm afraid, a poor showing by the Prime Minister.
And if we can expand a little bit about the contents of this letter, it clearly states that Netanyahu's government is endangering the lives of the hostages in order to pursue political and even personal interests. Could you explain that point in more detail, please?
Yes, well, Netanyahu, as long as the war goes on, we feel that he's making this war longer than it should be, so that the public gives him some grace for the war. What is more, or even worse, is that his two right-wing extreme parties have threatened that if Gaza isn't taken over, and some of them even want to settle there, Jewish settlers, Israeli settlers, they will topple the government. So he's clearly held by extreme parties to a position that is not supported by most Israelis. So it's his personal problems with the trial and with allegations that his Prime Minister's office staff were actually paid by Qatar, who's an adversary to Israel. And this is a case that is being investigated now by the police, and he's threatening everyone he can. It's quite pathetic, unfortunately, but make no mistake, this does not weaken Israel. This strengthens Israel, because as a vibrant democratic country, we support the military, we support certainly the Air Force, but we don't support the government or the Prime Minister. We think his actions are actually his actions are for his personal gains, to stay in power, whatever it takes. He's been in power for 16 years now, almost straight, and it's about time for him to go.
Well, sir, I agree that Israel is a democratic country, but you're yourself saying that the Prime Minister is basically doing things in his own personal interests, which are in fact endangering the lives of the hostages. And what will happen if the war in Gaza is not stopped in the near future with some kind of deal with Hamas, for instance? What's your prediction, given your experience?
Well, since the government of Israel is unable politically to offer any day after call on Gaza, then it will be a matter dealt between the Egyptians and the United States and Hamas, with Israel sidelined already. That's what is happening. And at the end of the day, when the United States and Witkoff decides that the deal is good enough, then it'll be imposed on Israel. For Netanyahu, this is quite convenient because he will be able to say, it was pushed down my throat to his right-wing extremists, and by that way may keep his position as prime minister. This is quite a sad situation, but that's the way it is.
Also, I really want to ask you this. Israel's leadership has said many times that the goal of the war is to eradicate Hamas. But is it possible through military action, though, do you think?
Well, technically it's possible, but so many Palestinians will be killed in Gaza doing that because Hamas is ingrained within the Palestinian civilians, that practically it's impossible. Nobody, bombs like in the Second World War and kills hundreds of thousands of people today. And I trust that most warriors in the Israeli military will not agree to take part in such a war. So this is really not realistic. And so Hamas will stay as a political power, and the question is, will they have weapons at their disposal? This is a crucial point that I guess only the Egyptians can actually force it on Hamas.
Also, there's been quite some backlash from the international community regarding the way Israel has been conducting this fight, this war, especially the bombing of Gaza, and with so many children and women, unfortunately, who've been killed. Do you think that this could cause even more radicalism and security threats against Israel?
No, I don't think so. Even those who criticize Israel understand that Hamas is a terror organization acting out of Gaza and hiding between civilians. And they're the major cause as a terrorist organization of the loss of life in Gaza. And at the end of the day, there have been about 50,000 lives lost in Gaza, of which about 20,000 are Hamas terrorists. Compare that to about 500,000 Syrians who were killed by their own regime in Syria in the last war. And compare that to a terror dealing with terrorists anywhere, and you'll see that this is something that is very, I would say, not only challenging, but also sad. But most people understand that it's difficult or impossible to deal with terrorists when they're within civilian population without collateral damage. And that collateral damage technically is quite low in comparison to other events, such events in other countries.
Well, frankly, I don't think that many Palestinians would agree with this opinion and with the figures that you've just presented, but retired Brigadier General...
Well, the numbers that I quoted are from the Gaza health authorities.
Okay, retired Brigadier General Relik Shafir, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.